The world's biggest power is the youth and beauty of a woman. This is actually a saying by the famous ancient Indian philosopher by the name Chanakya Niti. I don't know if I've pronounced it correctly, but if I didn't, excuse my, how do they say Indian? Is it Indian? Indians, what language do they speak? They speak Hindu. Excuse my Hindu. And this is actually a saying that I first heard at an early age from a very good and long friend of mine by the name Kayondo Samuel. Shout out to brother Kayondo. And at the time, I didn't get the full understanding of it. But as I've become of age and I have lived a vast range of experiences, the good and bad, I've actually got a deeper understanding of what the statement or what the saying entails. Actually, womanhood in and of itself is a force to be reckoned with. And this is my interpretation of it. If you find yourself dealing with a good prospect of a woman, dealing with a virtuous woman, she can actually be the number one reason for you to rise to excellence, for you to rise to prominence. And on the other hand of the coin, if you find yourself dealing with the wrong prospect of a woman in your life, she can actually be the cause of your own demise and your own downfall. Like literally a woman has that much power over you as a man. And with that in mind, you need to be extremely, extremely, extremely cautious of the archetype of woman that you give access to your life. Because if you don't, you might end up dealing with some negative ramifications just by virtue of associating with said woman. Since the dawn of human time, there's been so many stories that have attributed the downfall of some of the greatest men and kings at the expense of the women that they were dealing with. Like for instance, I do have a friend of mine by the name Steve. He always educates me on some of the biblical stories. And one of the stories in the Bible that he told me was that of Samson and Delilah. The downfall of Samson was at the expense of Delilah. His relationship that he had with Delilah. And that also goes for King Ahab and Jezebel. And that also goes for King David and Queen Bathsheba. All those three men that I've mentioned prior, their downfalls were linked to the women they associated with. It really goes to show that women have so much influence over how your life is going to shape out. And in this day and age, some of the examples that I can give you are the one that you might be familiar with is that one of Robert Kelly. He's one of the greatest music artists to ever exist. Robert Kelly. Like he's a king in his niche. He's a king in his genre of music. But he found himself in incriminating situations just because of his interactions with females, with women. And whether he's guilty or innocent is actually not the point of this video, but to highlight how big of a problem that men have had since the dawn of humankind. Another prominent example that I can give you is also associated with a music artist, Jason Derulo. I believe a big majority of us are familiar with him. There's so many videos making the round about his scandals, sexual allegation scandals. And the point I want you to take away from this is that a guy of such magnitude, inasmuch as he was found innocent of the sexual allegation scandals that were linked to him, the damage has already been done. He has lost millions. He has already lost millions on brand deals. He's already lost so much money that is being paid to the lawyers so that he can be able to clear his name. And the fact that, these kinds of incidents have been happening on numerous occasions. This is actually a microcosm of a much, much bigger problem. And the problem being, we have a plague of men who have always found themselves in incriminating scenarios just because of associating with species of the opposite gender, right? The point of this video is, as a man, you need to be extremely cautious. You need to be extremely vigilant of your interactions with species of the opposite gender. And by the way, this video is known to downplay or humiliate or downgrade women in any way, shape, or form. But these are things that we can never turn a blind eye on. These are things that are happening in our lives on a daily. And the biggest power you can ever have, one of the biggest tools you can ever have in your arsenal as a man for you to get through life is having your sexual urges in check. Because if you don't, my friend, I'm afraid you might end up finding yourself in so many worse scenarios. And women, by their inherent nature, in comparison to men, when you sit down and analyze their true nature, they are soft. The way they speak, they are soft. That is how God designed them. They have soft skins. They are tender in the way they speak. Even their bone and muscle mass compared to that of men is way lower compared to that of men. They are physically inferior to men. But make no mistake, don't mistake their softness for weakness. Because if you do, you might end up finding yourself in so many life-threatening scenarios or life-wrecking situations. A woman has that much power over you. Now, take away from this video, you need to be extremely militant and cautious of the nature of women that have access to you. Now, if the right woman has access to you, she might be the cause of your rise to prominence. She might be the reason of your rise to excellence. And on the other hand of the coin, if the wrong woman has access to you, she might be the cause of your own downfall and your own demise. As a man, don't make any mistakes of giving access to the wrong archetype of a woman, because if you do, you might end up dealing with their consequences. Don't say I never told you. But hey, what do I know? I'm just an African man. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, peace out. See you.